Hello everyone, I'm Cosmic Dreamer. Today, let's talk about a topic about the universe. Everything is too perfect and coincidental. On December 2nd, 2023, in Nanchang, Jiangxi, China, a lottery player bought a ticket, selecting 7 numbers out of 80. Not only were they all hit, but he bought 50,000 sets of this number. Each set cost 2 yuan, so he spent a total of 100,000 yuan and won 220 million yuan. Many netizens can't believe such a thing exists, thinking the likelihood is even smaller than the odds of being struck by lightning. Consequently, various hypotheses were proposed. We usually think that such a small probability event is simply impossible to happen. However, once it does occur, we tend to think it must have an inevitable reason. In fact, what people may not know is that there is an event around us with a smaller probability than this. But it has happened. You might have heard the saying that there is no such thing as perfection in this world. But in fact, there is one perfect thing in this world, that is our universe. The universe is too perfect, unbelievably so. Our universe's perfection is so uncanny that if there was even the smallest imperfection or flaw, life wouldn't have been possible. Therefore, our existence is a miracle within miracles. This miracle is even more incredible than the 220 million yuan lottery event. Next, let me talk about some of the incredible and strange perfections in our universe. First of all, within the observable range of the universe operates according to the same laws of physics. That is to say, physical formulas applicable on Earth also apply everywhere in the universe. The Moon, Mars, and even further planets all use the same physics. Thus, even without visiting these far-off planets, we can have a rough idea of what's happening there. The most obvious example is light. Its properties are the same everywhere in the universe. Therefore, we can use spectroscopy to analyze remote galaxies and planets. Moreover, the speed of light in a vacuum is constant anywhere in the universe, approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. Values like the speed of light that remain constant anywhere in the universe are what we call physical constants or fundamental constants of nature. There are similar constants, such as the gravitational constant. There are many such natural constants, such as Planck's constant, the mass of an electron, and so on. These constants never change anywhere, indicating that they are not limited by time and space. It's quite intriguing. While it exists within our universe, it appears unaffected by the universe. This indicates that it's not merely an element within the universe, but rather something that transcends above it. It restricts the universe, acting as one of its parameters. Such a thing couldn't possibly be a natural product, as any natural product within the universe is subject to change. It's said that aside from light, everything else in this world is a natural product of the universe. Such natural products can exhibit different speeds. Some are fast, some are slow, and some even accelerate from 0 to faster speeds. However, light doesn't behave this way. Its speed remains constant, making it unlike other natural products. These constants, analogous to the parameters of the universe, appear to be preset and don't occur within the universe itself. Indeed, from within the universe, we can only observe these constants without having the ability to change them. For instance, changing the speed of light is impossible for us. The first natural constant to be discovered was the gravitational constant, which was discovered by Newton 400 years ago. The second one discovered was the speed of light. However, when it was initially discovered, people didn't know that the speed of light was a natural constant. They thought it could vary, possibly becoming faster or slower. It was only after Einstein declared and proved its constancy that people realized the speed of light is also a natural constant. Following that, a sequence of other constants was discovered, including Planck's constant. After discovering these natural constants, many began to explore, why do these things remain constant? Could these truly be parameters of the universe? Should they indeed be parameters? They must have been preset by someone or something. A thought that's quite intriguing and a bit unsettling, isn't it? During their research, scientists discovered something even more peculiar. In 1937, Paul Dirac, a renowned British physicist and one of the founders of quantum mechanics, found a strange connection between these seemingly unrelated constants. That is, the ratio between the largest and smallest things in this world is 10 to the 40th power. What is the largest thing in the universe? It's the universe itself, the extent of what we can observe. And what is the smallest thing in the universe? It is the atom, which is the most basic unit of matter. Therefore, the ratio of the size of the universe to the size of an atom is 10 to the 40th power. Moreover, what is the strongest force in the universe? It is the strong force that binds protons and neutrons together in the atomic nucleus. And what is the smallest force in the universe? It's gravity, which, although it permeates the entire universe, is the weakest. The ratio of the strongest force to the weakest force is also 10 to the 40th power. Is this a coincidence? It feels like a coincidence, but yet it doesn't seem to be. This hypothesis is known as the large number hypothesis. From these numerical ratios, one can sense that an atom appears to be a miniature universe. This suggests that the universe could have been designed according to a fixed ratio, a fixed model. If the large number hypothesis holds true, natural constants might vary. Since the universe we currently observe is expanding, and if the size of the universe and atoms are proportional, atoms might also be expanding. If we were to observe the expansion of atoms, it would mean that this proportional relationship truly exists. However, we have not observed this yet, given the limitations of our current observational capabilities. If the size of atoms were to change, these natural constants would also change. They are all interconnected. The speed of light could change, and once it changes, all the matter in the world would also change. That is, the wood, iron, and other items we see now would transform into something else. We don't know what they would become. Of course, to date, the large number hypothesis remains speculative, without any evidence. No changes in the universal constants have been observed. So we currently believe that these constants are immutable. However, the existence of the large number hypothesis raises a very significant question. What would happen to our universe, and how would it affect our lives, should we observe changes in these cosmic constants one day? Consequently, scientists have conducted extensive calculations and simulations based on various scenarios where natural constants might change. This led to the discovery of the most incredible fact we're discussing today. That is, even a slight change in the natural constants would lead to a completely different universe. For instance, if the strong force within the atomic nucleus were slightly stronger than it is now, hydrogen would cease to exist. It would instantly transform into helium, resulting in no water, hence making the universe devoid of water. If the strong force were slightly weaker than it currently is, nuclear fusion would not occur, and the sun, along with all the star systems, would cease to exist, leading to a pitch-dark universe. To put it simply, even a slight change in the strong force inside the atomic nucleus, whether it increases or decreases, whether there's no water or no sun, we would cease to exist. We exist only because the value of the strong force is exactly what it is now. Next, let's consider the speed of light. We know that a slight alteration in the speed of light would directly influence the nature of the electromagnetic force. As a result, if it changes just a little, nuclear and chemical reactions would be different. And all matter we can see, like water, soil, trees, etc., would transform into something else. What they would become, we don't know. However, we can be certain that they wouldn't be what we see now. Next, if the gravitational constant were to decrease slightly, planets wouldn't form, and there would be only nebulae and fog. If the gravitational constant increased even slightly, the universe would be filled entirely with black holes, with no planets. All planets would explode immediately after coalescing, thereby forming black holes. After gathering together, a sudden explosion would lead to the formation of black holes. The universe would be filled with black holes, transforming into a frightening environment. Next, if the Planck constant were to increase even slightly, atomic nuclei would cease to exist. The material world as we know it would no longer exist. At this point, the whole physics community would become chaotic, sparking heated debates. They realized that our universe, and we ourselves, only exist because the natural constants are precisely what they are now. So can we consider that these universal constants are designed for us? Of course, you could consider this a coincidence, but the probability of such a coincidence is incredibly low. The range for strong force, which can form both water and stars, is extremely narrow. The gravitational range, where planets can form without creating black holes, is also very narrowed. If the number is higher, there would be only black holes. If it's lower, then only nebulae. And yet, we find ourselves existing in this narrow gap. Only when the speed of light is at our current value can all the matter in our world form. Hence, the speed of light must remain constant. Even a minor change won't work. The probability of any natural constant appearing is even lower than the chances of winning the lottery. It's akin to choosing 7 numbers from 1 trillion, whereas a lottery event is choosing 7 numbers from 80. You have to choose the correct 7 numbers from 1 trillion to maintain human existence, life itself. Even a single wrong number, and humans, life itself, would cease to exist. Our universe, remarkably, happens to have chosen all of these constants correctly. This is why so many physicists believe that there must be a reason these particular numbers are selected. Otherwise, it would be a miracle among miracles. Among miracles. Many physicists say this feeling of a miracle is akin to giving a monkey a typewriter, and it randomly typing out all of Shakespeare's works. This is the sort of miracle they're referring to. So many physicists believe that these natural constants must have been carefully selected, tweaked, and fine-tuned to make our existence possible. So, these 7 numbers are carefully selected, and for the universe, these 7 numbers are also finely selected. It's not me saying this, but physicists. Of course, we cannot rule out the possibility that if these natural constant values were different, other types of life might be birthed. However, we would have no idea what that life would look like. It would be beyond our comprehension. In the realm of our understanding, these parameters are tailor-made for us. We don't know how many parameters there are. All the few we've discovered so far have been finely tuned and perfectly adjusted. There are no exceptions. Indeed, this is one of the most fundamental mysteries of the universe. It's known scientifically as the fine structure constant. It's also referred to as the fine-tuned universe. Yes, it's perfectly suited for us. Please note, this concept is different from natural selection principles we often perceive. Regardless of evolution or transformation, the basis of these changes includes a broad range of organisms developing in various directions, where some are eliminated due to unfit conditions, and some survive because they adapt well. The primary concept here includes a wide range of life forms originating, which is not our case. So far, we've observed no signs of life in the universe, not even traces of past existence. Isn't it strange that we humans, appearing in such circumstances, are perfectly suited to this environment? This is not survival of the fittest. The lottery is somewhat similar to survival evolution. Many people play, everyone has different numbers, someone wins. This person directly bought 50,000 sets of a number, and every one of them won. That's quite odd. Let's analyze the probability of this win. First, it's possible that the winner could be an inside person from the lottery platform. Secondly, the winner may have been chosen by the divine. Our channel often refers to deities, and geniuses like Einstein, Tesla, etc. might have been chosen. However, neither of these explanations can account for this lottery win now. The first theory has been denied as official investigations into this incident have been conducted. The Chinese welfare lottery official platform issued an announcement proving that there was no cheating in this instance, and everything was in accordance with relevant regulations. The second theory doesn't seem likely either, because those chosen by the divine generally contribute significantly to our society, our country, and Earth's development. It's improbable that a deity would choose a lottery winner. The 220 million yuan won this time, according to China's consumption situation. If not spent on daily luxury goods and mansions, using a regular consumption level, is about enough for 5 generations. Therefore, neither theory can explain this lottery incident thus far. Indeed, the birth of human beings becomes even harder to explain. Moreover, this sort of adaptation doesn't come from our influence on the universe, causing it to adapt to us. We don't have that kind of influence to affect the entire universe, to make it change its parameters to adapt to life on Earth. That's impossible. Some people say that given enough time and enough attempts, winning the lottery becomes possible. If you buy lottery tickets every time, if you keep buying for over 10 billion years, you might win. The universe has been around for 13.8 billion years, So if the universe keeps trying, it might also give birth to life. Many people hold this view. But the problem is that, as far as we know, the age of the Earth and life are roughly the same. Life came into existence not long after the Earth was born, which is strange. It feels like winning the lottery the moment you start buying tickets, without trying many times. The moment Earth is born, life comes into being directly for this planet. And it's not only about Earth. To give birth to life on Earth, the Sun, the Moon, Mars, and Saturn all need to cooperate. None can be missing. The distances also need to be appropriate. The sizes of those planets also have to be suitable, as well as their positions. Even a tiny deviation wouldn't work. In other words, the whole solar system has been finely adjusted. This kind of unnatural and peculiarity has caused great debates in the scientific, philosophical, and theological worlds in the recent 100 years. Because to be honest, from a sensory point of view, the fine-tuning of the universe implies the existence of a creator. But in terms of probability, you cannot completely deny its possibility of emergence. It's close to zero, but you can't say it's zero. It's like a monkey typing out Shakespeare's works in one go. The probability is not zero, it's just extremely low, unfathomably low. So science believes that our birth can only be explained by a miracle. Theological scholars, on the other hand, claim our birth is definitely not a miracle. They challenge the scientists. You all like to perform experiments, right? Try an experiment where monkeys manage to type out Shakespeare given enough time and monkeys. Not one book, but all of Shakespeare's works, without a single letter misplaced. Hence, some theologians believe this is an inevitable result, asserting that there must be a creator. To be honest, on this question, I'm having a hard time supporting the scientific interpretation of miracles. Everyone knows that the birth of life is an extremely complex process. So much so that even now, we can't use organic substances to create life. We simply don't know how it came to be. Therefore, the birth of life has to be an extremely intricate process, extraordinarily complex, where a single misstep could prevent it from happening. The level of complexity far exceeds the range our human brain can process or even imagine. To achieve something this complicated in the universe, the degree of fine-tuning required for universal parameters is unimaginable. Currently, we have discovered several universal parameters, and they're quite terrifying, astonishing coincidences. We still don't know how many universal parameters we haven't discovered yet. What, exactly, fostered the birth of life? And not just simple life, but the birth of extremely complex life, the birth of intelligence. This demands an incredibly high standard from the system. I truly can't believe that monkeys, given the available universe's lifespan, could accomplish this feat, at least not within the period I can imagine. I feel that 13.8 billion years is not enough. While 13.8 billion years may seem immensely long to us as humans, to the universe itself, it's less than a second. The lifespan of the universe is incredibly long, so the current age of 13.8 billion years is simply too short. The emergence of life in such a brief time is too unnatural. Of course, I don't think theology provides a satisfactory explanation, either because theology doesn't rely on reasoning. It doesn't bother with presenting logical arguments. It sets up its premises and goes from there. The only explanation I can think of that makes sense to me is the virtual world hypothesis. This world, as a virtual system, has parameters, like the speed of light, which is a parameter. The purpose of setting the speed of light as a parameter is to eliminate the concept of infinity. According to the basic logic of physics, if continuous force is applied to an object, its speed will keep increasing without an upper limit. The lack of a speed limit may not have significant impacts on a normal universe, but for a virtual system, the implications are tremendous. So this system places upper limits on all physical quantities. Mathematics itself doesn't need upper limits. You can talk about infinity. Whether you understand it or not doesn't matter, as it won't have a significant impact. But in physics, if there is no limit, it can lead to destruction. Hence, the maximum speed is set to be the speed of light. The minimum temperature is absolute zero, and the highest temperature is the Planck temperature. The lower limit for the size of matter is the Planck length, and no upper limit has been set. However, a method has been established to limit matter from growing too large. Using gravity, it is restricted, so that the larger and more massive it becomes, the more it collapses, turning into a black hole and contracting on its own, preventing it from becoming larger. So, with a variety of methods, physics confines these values to a reasonable range, causing the concept of infinity to disappear. Thus, the universe is not only perfectly established, but also perfectly constrained. You can't find any opportunities to break through its limits. It doesn't provide any chances for this kind of breakthrough. Of course, there's another scientific hypothesis that can help explain this problem, and it pertains to the fine-tuning of the cosmological constant. This says that beyond our universe, there may exist countless parallel, or rather, what we should call multiverses. What are the differences between parallel universes and multiverses? Parallel universes are split based on our choices, so that different universes might contain copies of us. Multiverses differ in that each universe's parameters would be unique. They emerged and dispersed at the moment of the Big Bang. The foundational theory for the multiverse concept is called string theory. According to string theory, the total number of universes should be 10 to the power of 500. That is, 1 followed by 500 zeros. We are but one of these universes. And we just happen to fall within all these parameters, which is why we were born. In other words, science ultimately returns to the premise of coincidence. We just happen to exist in this coincidental universe. Yet, our birth is inevitable in the grand scheme of things, because all possible scenarios have manifested, meaning there will eventually be a universe where humanity is born. While this hypothesis seems unproblematic and is theoretically supported, there's one issue. These 10 to the power of 500 universes. Are they truly sufficient for life to come into existence? They're far from enough. The renowned British astronomer Fred Hoyle firmly believed that the birth of life is far from a coincidence. He proposed that life comes from somewhere specific, possibly from outside our universe. Why did Fred Hoyle theorize this? At the beginning of an interview, he offered an analogy. He said the probability of the origin of life is much like a hurricane passing over a pile of rubble, and, coincidentally, assembling that rubble into a Boeing 747. This seems astonishingly implausible, but what exactly is the likelihood? He provided a concrete example to quantify this problem. He stated that life is made up of proteins, which are in turn composed of amino acids. To form a protein that constitutes life, about 100 amino acids must link together in a fixed sequence. The odds that a collection of amino acids could randomly combine to form a life protein is 1 in 10 to the power of 65. And the simplest life form, a single-cell organism, generally consists of a few thousand proteins. For instance, E. coli comprises 4,000 proteins and yeast comprises 6,000 proteins. We'll simplify this, presuming there exists a very basic life form made up of 2,000 proteins. The probability of such a life form coming into existence is 1 in 10 to the power of 40,000. As I mentioned earlier, there are a total of 10 to the power of 500 universes. But with a birth rate of life being 1 in 10 to the power of 40,000, the chances of life emerging drop to 1 in 10 to the power of 30,500. This implies that even with 10 to the power of 500 universes, the chances of life coming into existence wouldn't improve at all. Closely approximating 0, it's virtually indistinguishable from 1 in 10 to the power of 40,000. So, multiverse theory falls short in explaining this issue. The 10 to the power of 500 universes is far from sufficient for the birth of life. We've discussed scientific hypotheses, and we'll skip over theological ones, for theology does not entertain hypotheses. Next, let's talk about philosophical hypotheses. A very notable philosophical theory has emerged from these debates, which might explain the fine-tuning of the universe. It postulates that the universe appears so perfect because its perfection is what allowed our existence in the first place. We perceive it as perfect because we're able to witness its perfection. If the universe weren't perfect, we wouldn't exist, and there'd be no one to notice its imperfection. It's akin to the feeling of, how do you know I'm looking at you if you're not looking at me? In other words, the only reason the universe seems perfect is because we can't observe an imperfect universe. In an imperfect universe, we wouldn't exist. Therefore, as long as we exist, the universe must be perfect. This theory is known as the anthropic principle, and its publication instantly sparked a heated debate between the scientific and philosophical communities. The scientific community rejects this principle because if it were established, science would cease to have any reason to exist. All questions could potentially be answered by this principle, thereby making the exploration of deeper theories meaningless according to this philosophical construct. The philosophers argue that it's futile to investigate beyond our cognitive capacity. We should merely accept our understanding for what it is. Our cognitive range, they suggest, extends only to the extent that we can discern the universe's perfection, but not its imperfection. Consequently, while science deems this as sophistry, philosophy considers it as justice. The anthropic principle essentially implies that we can never truly comprehend the full-fledged truth. In turn, this suggests that we are trapped within a system. We are incapable of conceptualizing or validating matters existing outside of this system. If we were living inside a black hole, we could never escape. It's similar to characters or non-player characters in a video game. They are perpetually unaware that they are mere characters, programmed and confined within the game's settings. Speaking of NPCs, it reminds me of something else. In the beginning, I mentioned that the natural constants in the universe haven't merely been laid out for us to observe. Instead, they have been painstakingly discovered by the brilliant minds of physicists through countless calculations and experiments. Perhaps they've managed to discover a single constant after several hundred years of scientific endeavor. Constants like the speed of light and gravitational constant fall under such discoveries. Moreover, these constants are either extremely large or extremely small, issued in the incredulous powers of 10, be it positive or negative. Exceptionally large elements hide within atoms, such as the strong force. In contrast, the incredibly minute elements hide within the vastness of the universe, like gravity, making them hard to detect. Essentially, they are concealed, making them difficult to detect. Regardless, in normal life, we cannot perceive these constants. Why are these constants hidden away? And if they indeed are concealed, why are they eventually discovered? A handful of constants have been unearthed by scientists, but it seems that the remaining ones are hidden too deeply. Unless you venture into the depths of neutrons or protons, you won't uncover these constants. This brings us back to the NPC issue I mentioned. If the system parameters are not hidden and they prominently appear within the system might eventually comprehend that it could be a created entity. So what happens when an NPC realizes its nature? There are a few possibilities. It might accept its fate and purpose, continuing its functionality as an NPC. Or it might attempt to escape this constraint. It may resist and try to break free. Moreover, if our world were indeed designed, there must be a reason for its creation. The NPC would surely be curious to uncover the reasons behind its design. It may wish to venture into the real world for a glimpse. The things we currently create serve either productivity or entertainment. Returning to the initial point about purchasing 50,000 lottery tickets with the same number and winning 2.2 billion. We may ponder upon the question, given that we exist in this universe, is there anything impossible? Just as philosophers suggest, since we can only observe this outcome, all we can do is accept it. Other possible outcomes either don't exist or aren't significant enough for us to delve into. That concludes the content for this video. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.